Welcome back to the Diver Guide channel. Today we're talking about inward dive straight. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter video because I really just want to show the common mistakes about balance on an inward takeoff and kind of compare it to inward 1.5, inward 2.5, and even inward 3.5, because it's not about leaning over the board. It's about staying on top of your toes. So there's a slight difference there. I think a lot of people get that wrong because it's going to feel similar, but when you've been a diver long enough, you know that you can't be leaning over the board too much because you'll fall into it. And your natural instinct is to push your hips away when you do that. So that's why staying on top of your toes on the board puts you in the optimal position. So let's talk about the optimal position. That involves having your core engaged, which kind of means you have hollow hips. Not everybody always does that, but I believe that that helps you maintain better balance if that's something that you struggle with. But also when your core is engaged, when you go to push away from the board on the jump, you'll be more connected from upper body to lower body. And when you think about a front takeoff hitting that 90-90 position, on an inward, it looks slightly different because you have to push the hips back just a little bit. But for an inward dive straight, you don't bring your chest down at all. So you don't even need to worry about the throw or any of that. This is literally just a dive that's all about balance and body position. And that's why you can't really cheat it. The goal is to pop off the toes and kind of throw from an extension of the elbows. You don't really have to throw your arms down into this dive at all. My favorite drill for this is doing this on the end of the board. You put yourself in a squat position, trying to get your hips directly over your toes and your knees go forward. You want your arms up by your ears, and then you try and keep them there while keeping your core hollow as you bounce the board at the fulcrum. Ideally, you keep your head in the same position and all that's moving is your legs. This will force you to balance in the correct position because as soon as you fall out of that alignment, you'll either fall off the board or you'll step forward. But the goal is to keep moving, and when you get off balance, you self-correct. You try and get your balance back. That's the best way to teach your body how to make these micro adjustments so that when you go to do it on an arm circle and squat and when you're going to do a dive, you'll naturally make those adjustments to keep the best balance for yourself. I've seen divers that struggle with pushing away from the board do this drill, 2 rounds of just like 10 pulses, and then they go to do an inward 1.5 and their balance is dramatically improved. The last thing that sometimes helps people is to think about their hips sliding in. When you're going down into the squat, you're going to sit back slightly. That's supposed to happen. But as you go to do your stand up, your hips have to move back in to be on top of your ankles. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting and pushing out. So I try to imagine my hips doing like a J or a U. As you squat down and stand back up, you keep your core engaged. And as you shift from squat to stand up, you slide your hips in to be right on top of your ankles. And then from there, it's just like that drill, and all you're doing is standing up. For inward dive straight, like I said, you just want to pop from the elbows. So you're throwing up, pushing through the ankles, and keeping the chin up as much as you can on the takeoff. That's also great because on inward takeoffs, I always like seeing the head up when you go for more somersaults. So this will help train that as well. You can pick a spot that's like halfway down the board or the black strip at the end of the board. And some people even look up at the wall that might be behind the board. I typically say choose something on the board because that is something that will always be there no matter what pool you're at. The surroundings of your pools will change if you go to a competition, but a visual cue on the board will always be in a similar spot. A common mistake that you see with inwards is that when they come through for the stand-up, it's natural to push the hips back and they go into a little bit of a pike before straightening out. That's going to tell you that you're on your way to getting it, but you're not quite there. That means that you have to do the balance drill more because you're releasing from the board too early. You have to stay on the board a lot longer than you think you do and realize that the only things that are going to generate this rotation for you is being able to push through the ankles and that throw up into the air. And the only way to release from the ankles is if you wait long enough to push through the ankles. If you leave too early, then you're going to have to bend at the hips to get away from the board. So it might be a little scary the first couple times you do it, but once you get it right and you find that perfect release point, it's going to make your inwards so much better. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.